No one.
I'm Barry Botone, back with the TOR Res Recovery podcast. Mm-hmm. Would you like to go around the room, introduce yourself?
Go around the circle.
Yeah, so I'll start. I'm Darian Trabata, the director of TOR. So been here since the beginning, so we'll go on.
All right. My name is Domingo Whiteman. I'm the TOR prevention and admin assistant. Been here since the beginning when we were in a little closet with the boxes. Mm-hmm. Like if a fire breaks out, we're doomed. We got our obituary pictures ready. Yeah. But yeah, pass it on.
Appreciate that. I'm Carmelo Revelis. I'm the behavioral health case manager for TOR. Been here since almost the beginning, about 2 weeks afterwards. Still in the same closet, same boxes. Yeah. My picture is not ready. I don't plan on that.
All right. Well, I guess today we were wanting to talk a little bit about stigma. But first of all, I'd like to get the elders meditation. I'd like Domingo to go ahead and bless us with this meditation.
Well, all y'all out there, Happy New Year, 2024. Hope everybody had a good Christmas and good New Year's. Today is January 4th. We'll read, it's from Lame Deer, Lakota. It says, our circle is timeless, flowing. It is a new life emerging from death, life winning out over death. And today is, when we look at the world in the manner which the Great Spirit designed it, we can see why it makes sense to live in harmony with it. The tree grows, the bear fruit, the fruit has seeds, the seeds fall to the ground. The ground grows new trees, the old trees die to make way for the young. Anytime we think we can interrupt this circle or change it, we will experience turmoil and confusion. The human cycle exists as the baby becomes the youth. The youth becomes the adult has children, the adult becomes elder. And the elder teaches the youth, elders go on to the spirit world. Spirit comes into babies to produce new life. Flow into the flow, be the path of least resistance. And I kind of got that today. As I read today, kind of helped me talk to my sister. Shout out to Yoli. We talked about how, like my nephew, how I mentioned before, he mentioned stuff Star Wars, like, but he always says, talks about it. And then my sister's like, yeah, we all have a lot of our own Yodas, our own elders, the teachings of, just listening. And just always being there when they talk about what happened or their experience or their ways that they learned. So I feel like that, like the elders, go on to the spirit world. Spirit comes into the babies to produce new life. So flow into the flow. Be the path of least resistance. So talking about today, breaking the stigma. So that's all I got.
Oh, when you got done reading that, the first thing that came to mind was, as an alcoholic, the first dilemma I had was I realized my lack of power. As an alcoholic, I want to control everything. I want to control how you feel. I want to control how you, look at life. I want to control that for you, because if everybody just did everything Barry's way, this would be a much better world, and all right. That's the first dilemma that alcoholics, that's the first thing that we realize is that our lack of power, because if it was that way, man, I'm sure I'd be living under a bridge still somewhere, But, trying to control the flow of things, it made me realize, that, humility, it finally meant something to me, to be humble, to sit back and realize that I can live life on life's terms. I don't have to be control of anything. I don't have to put this extra pressure on myself because I want these substances in my life. I want things to go this way because I feel better that way. It was getting out of my comfort zone and realizing that I had an issue that I I couldn't do on my own. You know, I couldn't handle this problem on my own. And you know, and since I've realized that, my life has become blessed beyond measure. You know, just realizing that there's a lot of things that I got to give to the Creator. You know, things that are out of my control. You know, I had people pass away that were in my life that, I don't know, I thought I had the ability to keep these people alive. You know, like I felt like I had a part in, if only they would have listened to me, they would still be here. You know, like these things were things that were going on inside of my head. And I have no control over any of that. You know, that has nothing to do with me. You know, that was between them and the Creator, you know? And it took a lot of me looking at myself to realize that, you know, that elder's meditation, I like that for today, you know, because like they always say in AA, or like they always say in this at my clubhouse is, you know, keep it simple. You know, there's no need for me to feel like, or to even think that I can even compare to what the Creator has in store for everybody. You know, that's not my job. You know, and I have the tendency to want to play God. You know, regardless of the situation. You know, I'm a control freak. You know, I want things to go my way. You know, and that's it. You know, how's that going to benefit anybody? You know, that's how selfish and self-centered I can be. You know, so I have to realize these things every day, and realize that I'm just a part of the Creator's world. You know, this is his world. You know, I'm just living in it. Mm-hmm. So, does anybody else would like to share on what was just said?
You know, I think it's you're talking about control, and I used to have a huge battle with that myself. I think I still have a small part of it, but like there isn't a part of me where, you know, back in the day where I thought I had to have my hand in this and this and this because I had to be the one to control every single outcome, and that had to do with my kids. It had to do with you know, my family and everything else. Like no one else is going to drive because I'm the one that gets to control the situation. You know, no one else is going to work. No one else is going to do this. No one else is going to do that. And I think it's like you said, you have to let go. You have to be able to let go. And, you know, there's a saying, let go and let God, let go and let Creator. And to be able to, I just had a realization one day is like, I'm not going to be able to do that. There's no way. It's not possible. And you just have to be able to, I don't know. I think I still battle with it, just like I'm sure you still battle with it. Mm-hmm. But like, there's just certain things where, like, my wife will literally just have to grab me and be like, "Just stop," because you're not going to be able to do it all. Yeah, sometimes like that. But yeah, I mean, and it's just like you know, you have to be able to not take everything because you know sometimes I was taught like you do all this because you're the one that has to take care of everybody. You're the one that has to do this, and you're the one that has to make sure that this happens, and this happens, and this happens. And when you take all that on, it's a huge burden. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it is taught to, like, I was raised in a single-parent household, and my mom taught me a lot of that stuff to where, like, you can't rely on all these people. You can't rely on this. You can't rely on that. You have to be able to do all this yourself. But in doing that, she taught me a lot and to be able to take care of myself. But with that, I wasn't allowing anybody else to take care of themselves. I was doing it all for them. I wasn't allowing anybody else to be independent that was in my life or anything like that. And so it put a lot of struggle and stress on me to where, I was battling with stuff every day and I didn't even realize it. So to be able to let go is, like I said, I had a realization one day and it was just like, oh my goodness. And now I'm still dealing with it, but not as much as I was. So yeah, that it really brings out a lot. When I read that this morning, it was like that. So
Thank you. I like that.
Who-
Okay. We were wanting to talk about stigma. I looked up the definition of stigma. Just so you know. Stigma, a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. The stigma of having gone to prison will always be with me. That plays a huge part in people's recovery and what the community thinks about people in recovery. I mean, I've been told before that, oh, I'm an alcoholic and I'm a drug addict. I've had a person tell me, well, you're just going to keep relapsing. That's just part of it. And I'm just like, what? No, it's not. Like what? I mean, but I ain't going to sit here and act like it's not a possibility. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I can't believe that. I can't let that in my head and start to even plant that seed that, I'm going to relapse. I feel like I have a firm foundation. I feel like I've got a good enough foundation to where I can build on these things. I've dug deep into what kept taking me out, and I feel like stigma, that's a big one. That's a big one for people in the community. When they associate alcoholics and drug addicts, they just picture us one way, and I can't sit here and act like it didn't control my life at one time, but at the same time, I also am getting to the bottom of what was bothering me enough to keep me out there. And I got to say, we do recover. We do get better. I am trying to heal. That ain't going to stop people from thinking that I'm one step away from just, going out. And I got to think of it as, if I go out again, I may never come back. That's just how I got to think of it. So, what kind of stigmas do you feel like we've ran into or we see a lot of?
I mean, the easy one is people kind of seeing, shame with substance use, which honestly, I mean, like that's just so common. So that's why we try to go as low barrier to like providing care and everything to where like we don't even see who we're helping with like, stigma-free distribution sites where we leave like supplies for people that are in active use so that way they can, stay alive, honestly. And so that's our biggest stigma that I've seen. I mean, we'll ask people straight up, be like, you smoke crack? Like, you need stuff? Like, you need help? Like, we're here. And they're like, no, what are you doing? We're like, you can see it. Like, but it's all right. I mean, like, we don't care. Like, we're here for you guys.
Yeah.
And so, like, I've always wondered why people kind of, turn away whenever they see people that need help. Because, like, the only analogy I can think of for, like, somebody that's in active substance use is, like, say somebody's driving down the road, they take a different turn. Like, that could have been, like, the little choice of, like, hey, I'm going to, like, try this drink. And then that just leads them down a path. But, and then they see somebody, they ask for directions. That person's not going to be like, no, I'm not going to help you. Like, or, like look away and pretend not to see them. It's like, yeah, that initial choice, like they were just thinking that they were just doing one thing. They didn't know how far it would take them down this path. Mm-hmm. And so why would you not help the person that's lost in their life? And so that's what I think we do a good job at is people ask us and we, do our thing, help them find the right path, hook them up with sobriety stuff, hook them up with treatment centers, maintenance, like, I mean, just reaching out to them, calling, I mean, one day we'll call, that person will be at their lowest point. The next day they're like, oh, I'm almost, to a treatment facility because of what we've done. And so I think that's one big thing for us is that we don't stigmatize substance use because we do know it's pretty much out of control or out of your own control. And so we're just there to be a lifeguard, if you will, just to kind of help them get afloat, help them get on their path.
Thank you. I like that. What about you, Mingo?
I just think stigma, it's like with our native communities, our families that are, they're just going to end up like that. They're going to do this, they're going to be drinking again or substance abuse, and it's going to follow along. But it's like, no, it's like, it's, sad to say when they say that. It makes me mad, It's just like, no, it's up to them if they're going to change or not. But, we're here, like the lifeguard, like you said, there's help out there. But it's always scary to them to make that big changes, people, places, and things. And I just think that stigma, that's a lot of it in our native communities. And, it's sad to see, but, I just want to let y'all know, we're here. We're here for, support and treatment. And there's ways to get out, ways to break that stigma. So that's how I see it, over these growing up and seeing that, because even with just, my family and stuff, they drug dealers and whatnot, it's like, that didn't continue, that didn't follow with, and I have that blood, So I just think just breaking that stigma, and that's what it means to me.
Oh. What's up, Carmelo? What kind of stigmas do you see that we face a lot as we get out and do our thing?
I think a lot of them are, just dealing with people in general, just the general people, not, the people that we know that we're trying to help. I think that's sometimes it's a big issue because I think in the beginning people didn't really know what we were doing. And now that people are starting to realize that, okay, yeah, these guys are here to help. They're not here to, I'm trying to think of the word. They're not here to try to help them continue their habit. They're here to help them try to break their habit. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to keep them safe because even if they are using, then, from your own experience that you're going to do anything and everything in order to get that next high or whatever it is you're looking for. And it doesn't matter what you're using. It doesn't matter how you're getting it. So we're just there to try to make sure they're staying safe. And hopefully at some point down the road, they're going to come back and realize that all we're trying to do is protect them, and we can show them the way from that step all the way, through the next steps of recovery. And so I think that was a huge stigma that we dealt with, and that was each of us because people didn't even know how to talk to us. People didn't know we existed. People didn't know how harm reduction works. People didn't know, like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And, and it's crazy to think, but like, our elders used to be like, oh, well, just tell them to stop. Mm-hmm. That's all it takes. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we battle with all the time because as Native American people, like you grow up in an environment to where it's like, oh, well, all you got to do is tell them to stop. And now it's like, well, I want my grandkids or I want my son or I want my nephews to be able to go to treatment, and you guys go get them and go take them because that's all it takes. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we deal with is like, oh, okay, well, we're not the police. We can't just go grab somebody. Yeah. And
we can impersonate. We can break into hotel rooms and get people.
We had somebody that was a light horseman in Res Dog.
He's got the costume still.
Got my uniform.
He can call them up and have them come and help him out. Yeah. But like that's what I think that's like the huge barrier that we faced as TOR. And I think it's that barrier, that stigma is breaking down as we're getting our word out there. And I think people are starting to realize, hey, these guys are out there saving lives. And there's tons of people out there. All it takes is one life. And how many have we already helped out?
Whole bunch.
Yes.
And it's, and it's great for us to be able to do that. But, we still face some. Some people don't want to hear from you.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. They see me coming, they go the other way.
And some of it's just because they know you talk too much. But some kids, and it's like that because I remember growing up. Some kids they need to hear that story. They need
Yeah.
to hear that. There's some other ones that aren't going to pay attention to a darn thing you say, and they need some other avenue.
I was one of those kids.
Yeah, and they need some other avenue in order to realize, like, hey, maybe these guys are here to help, and maybe I don't need to listen to him, but there's these other avenues I can go through, and we're here to provide every single one of those avenues, whether or not they want to listen to you or not. So,
Yeah.
but you know, those are, like I said, those are the stigmas. Like, we deal with it. Like, schools don't want to deal with it sometimes because they think we're enabling people, and that's not what we're trying to do.
Oh, no.
We're just trying to provide education and try to help people, because we can't be everywhere 24/7. Like, people have to be able to do this on their own.
Yeah.
And
For
that's
sure.
that's our goal, is to treat them and to teach them that way. So I think those are the biggest stigmas that we deal with as TOR.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think a big stigma that I've seen was, you know, whether it's their parent or grandparent or whoever it is that approaches us and is like, they need help. You know, like, what can you do for them? You know, and like you were saying, you know, at some point, they're going to have to want that themselves.
Right.
You know, regardless of how bad I was getting in my addiction, it wasn't until I was ready. You know, it was not until I was ready and I was fed up with the way that I was living, the way my life was going, and I kept ending up in the same spot, you know, and I mean, but once I made that conscious decision, like, you know what, this is enough. You know, like, I can't do this anymore. You know, I felt like, because of my own experience with alcoholics and addicts from my family, you know, I thought it was a never-ending process. You know, I watched most of my uncles and my aunt, I watched them all drink themselves to death. You know, and I just thought that's how it ended. I thought that was the end result, was you get cirrhosis or you have an accident and something happens and you're not here anymore. You know, I honestly thought that's the only way out. And, you know, as I got a little bit older and realized, you know, like, nah, there's people that went and got sober, you know, like, how did they do that? You know, like, how did they go through life without any kind of substance? You know, like, they got to be lying. You know, there's no way, like, somebody's just sitting there sober and happy all day long, you know? Like, there's no way. But it wasn't until I realized that mental health has just as much to do with this thing as it does, you know, as the actual drug or alcohol that they're taking. You know, this is like, the way that I had to adjust my attitude, the way that I had to have an open mind and approach this thing like my life depended on it. You know, that's how serious I took this thing, was I knew my life depended on it, because I have a history with my family of these things not ending well. You know, I used to have an uncle here in town, Uncle Crow. Man, he was the best uncle, man. Loved this little guy, man. He was a hell of an uncle. But he could not quit drinking for nothing. For nothing. Every day, it was nothing out of the ordinary to come outside and see him asleep in the yard. I mean, it was so normal. Like, nope, like, dang, he looks hot. You know what I mean? Just go on my way, you know?
Or his alarm.
or go downtown El Reno and he's just laying there. Like, or crawling home. Completely normal. And, you know, he went swimming in Lake El Reno and he drowned, and, you know, that was horrible. You know, I think about him all the time because, you know, he was such a happy person. I can hear him laughing right now. You know, it was, you know, I don't even know how long he struggled. I don't know, like, I don't know who to ask to, you know, realize how long he had this struggle. If he even tried to get sober, you know, there was probably not even half the resources that there are today, you know, and, you know, because back then, when I was growing up, you had like a family drunk, you know, like most families had like a family drunk. My family had like,
The family sober.
yeah, I mean, it was crazy, you know, and now today, you have the family drunk, you got the family tweaker, you got the family heroin addict, you got the family pill addict, you got like all these different substances that these people are on now. You know, I mean, it's just. But to me, one thing they all have in common is that something drove them to this point where that's the only relief that they're getting in their life. You know, whether it's depression, you know, whether it's, you know, whatever it is, mental health, you know, maybe it's some trauma that they, you know, encountered in their life. You know, I just want people to realize that, you know, if you're even thinking about recovery, if you're even thinking that, you know, there's a spark of hope left in you, that, you know, that you're tired, you're ready to do something different, you're ready to get a hold of this thing, because, I mean, the person that I became and the things that I was willing to do, I mean, I can't even, I don't even want to think about, you know, where I was mentally, you know, suicidal and depressed, and I mean, just nothing good at all was coming out of my, you know, my thoughts, out of my head, you know, and, you know, I think the stigma that I think I see the most from natives is that, you know, we just don't know how to talk about this thing. We don't know how to approach it. It's like when we're trying to give somebody Narcan. Oh, I don't talk to those people.
Yep, all the time.
You know, I don't deal with those people. I don't talk to them. You know, it's like either they know exactly what's going on, or they don't want anything to do with that. I mean, which I understand, you know, like you've kept it out of your life. You're very lucky, because there's a lot of families that have to deal with this stuff every day. You know, they can't sweep it under the rug no more. They can't hide it no more. It's controlling this household, and, you know, and everybody's suffering from it. You know, there's so many families that I know need help. You know, there's so many people. I got so many friends that are still out there. You know, and I feel like if I just keep doing what I'm doing, you know, if I can just stay sober just for today, you know, I ain't got to stay sober in 5 years, or I just got to stay sober for today. You know, I feel like the Creator's gonna, as long as I can do that, He's gonna find a way to find these people. And you know, it's been tough. You know, it's been tough. You know, because I still got family that, you know, I love and care about. You know, like I see them suffering. You know, I hear about what they're going through. I hear about their lives, and you know, it's not a good feeling. You know, because I feel like everybody deserves to be happy. Everybody deserves to be sitting where I am and doing what I'm doing, or even if it's not that, I mean, just happy. You know, and I can say that's probably the biggest blessing of my life today is that, you know, I just got to worry about where my next drink's gonna, you know. You know, I ain't worried about stealing no more. I ain't worried about lying to nobody. I ain't worried about where I'm gonna sleep, where I'm gonna eat. Can I take a bath today? You know, do I got clean socks? Do I got to go? You know, just
Now you can make that choice of whether to bathe or not.
yeah.
Clean cars.
Yeah, now it's voluntary.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's, you know, we're talking about stigma, and you know, sometimes there's unknown ones, like we talk about, there's normal, and like there's a lot of families that, you know, you grow up and your dad and your mom and your aunts and your uncles, they're all alcoholics, and so these kids that are growing up, that's normal to them. This is what they do. They go to work, they come home, they start drinking, they wake up, they go to work, they start drinking again. And it's just like this normal thing. And you see kids that are in those environments. You see the ones that grow up and they're like, oh, well, you know, this is just what they do. And there's nothing ever like you can talk to them till you're blue in the face. And they're just like, well, this is what my mom and dad did. They're if they survived and they were able to provide for me the whole time, like what's going to stop me from going out and being happy and what they think is happy, what they perceive to be happiness, because that's what they think, like what happiness is. Like, oh, they have a family, they're able to do this, they're able to do that. And so like there's these unknown things, there's these what kids and what families perceive to be normal, and it's not what we say is not normal, because we know that grabs a hold of them and it changes their life and it changes their mental health. And like you said, it's depression, it's grief, it's trauma. It can be anything. And in an eventuality, we all know that you're going to lose those parents. You're going to lose those aunts and uncles. And I know in my family, and particularly, like we don't have, like I think our oldest person is in their 50s. And that's just crazy to think about, because I'm only 9 years away from that. And I don't consider myself an old man. Now, you, on the other hand,
I'm still a young stallion.
Yeah.
but you know, and like these
Young adult.
guys are young guys compared to us, because I mean, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
But you know, and when I think about that, yeah, they still can't take it. That's why I tell my boy all the time. I was, I don't care how big you get, you ain't ever going to be able to do anything. So, but but seriously, like the thoughts that, you know, there's, you know, these kids, they're growing up like that, and it's just like you want to get a hold of them, but they're not in an environment to where they're going to be able to understand it until you know, maybe they have to go through something in order for it to happen. And some people do have to reach that rock bottom in order for something to happen, and that's a stigma in itself.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's, you know, that's a lot that we have to deal with as Native families. And it's, you know, in my family, like I said, our oldest ones are like in their 50s. And it's crazy to think that. And like in an eventuality, I'm going to be one of the oldest ones. And it's already a responsibility. And how much greater of a responsibility is it going to be whenever I am? And everyone's going to be looking towards me in order to get all that knowledge. And that's goes straight back to our meditation, because everything is supposed to flow back through, because we're the ones that are providing all the knowledge, and all of that spirit, all of that knowledge, all that education is flowing back into our next generation.
Yeah.
And that's how we're breaking the curses. That's how we're breaking the trauma. That's how we're doing this. And so we're breaking the stigma at the same time by doing what we're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and like I do see a lot of I would say high school events is when we see the biggest impact. An example is the career fair. Is we gave out like 300 Narcan because these kids already knew the risks associated with substance use, and most of them would say that they were getting it for their parents, is because like we knew these households too. Like, I mean, Barry, you're halfway related to all of them anyway. And so like,
The other half Domingos.
yeah,
Really.
Yeah.
and then I'm like, that's my grandma. She's a junior. But like we see kids taking care of their parents now, which is bizarre. Like, and which is weird is because I feel like I kind of did that too whenever I was a kid. And it was just because like substance use was normal, but then in the elder generation, recovery was normal. And so I would see that polarity of, active addiction and then those in recovery. And I was like, can I just skip a step and go to the recovery portion? And so that's why like I've been, clean and sober my entire life, because I knew all my relatives were saying they thought they could just have one drink and then it would have been fine. And it never worked out that way. And so I was like, okay, I'll listen to that. And I think we are seeing that a lot in our younger generation now. And then, our big obstacle now is schools, like the actual school leadership. So like out of those like 300 Narcan we gave out at the career fair, some of the schools actually took away the supplies that was going to be used to save lives. And so now we try to get creative and doing like our college safe boxes, our new thing we just launched like 2 days ago. And now people are ordering supplies to keep their kids safe or them safe. And it's all like anonymous, so they don't even have to put a name down. And so that's just one way of us kind of breaking the stigma or, kind of doing a stigma loophole, if you will, to where they're still anonymous. But it's working and people are, getting the stuff that they need. And so I think that's one thing that we're doing pretty good at is, adapting to whatever obstacles are thrown at us.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's funny too how these kids already know what they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I know whenever I was a little guy, I mean, I knew exactly what was going on, and I wasn't even in the room with my, with my dad or
Mm-hmm.
I seen him do it all, and I can't unsee that. You know what I mean? Like I can't. It's just crazy the memories that I have of. I could just smell a smell, and knew what they were in there doing. Mm-hmm. And I can still remember all of that, and I think it's cool how we are finding ways to reach who we need to reach or to help, anonymous or whatever, like that's pretty awesome, man. I whose idea was that?
Oh, it was harm reduction man's idea. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, harm reduction man.
We're all harm reduction men. It's like Spider-Man.
Yeah,
He's flying around somewhere.
We need to get a costume one day.
It could be Hawk. We just don't know.
Yeah.
Get that regalia ready.
Well, hopefully, we can just keep battling this stigma. We can just keep sticking up for these people, letting them know, lead by example, show them that, I hope I can be that light for somebody, because, like you were saying, like I know so many people in the community or, been around the block a time or two,
Multiple blocks.
Yeah.
One side of the city to the other.
Yeah. I'll be there in 2 hours.
I mean, and I definitely want people to see what I'm doing now. I believe in recovering out loud. I want everybody to see that, we do recover, we do heal, we are trying to make a better life for people. And it ain't how does it make my life better by somebody else getting sober? I mean, it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, but it's a way out for them. man, I'm tired of watching my people suffer. You know, I watch my family. I watch, like I said, I was watch all my aunts and uncles just, man. One died in a car wreck whenever I was 10. Other one drowned. Other one died from cirrhosis. You know, I mean, and I love these people. You know, I thought the world of these people. You know, and me and their kids all had to grow up without them. You know, and you see that today. You know, parents, you know, not being able to raise their kids. You know, and we got to find a way to let people know that there is help, there is a way out, and you know, anything towards that goal will help. You know, we have a big event coming up in February.
Yeah, the city of Watauga actually held a meeting, and TOR felt very out of place. It was with the chief of the BIA and the chief of police of Watauga, and then us four. And it turns out they want us to do a massive town-wide substance use awareness / recovery event. And they just asked us, you know, by name, honestly, to host this event. So February 10th, it's a Saturday. We're trying to get it pretty big, pretty engaging for the youth and the community and all that stuff. And then another way we are promoting recovery that is brand new, because Barry is going to be head man dancer January 27th. We figured, why not start a recovery gourd clan? And we're winging it, honestly, but it's gonna turn out great. I mean, like that's the TOR methodology. Is honestly, we're just gonna see if it works. And that started, you know, 3 years ago of us winging it, and we're still here. So we can't wait to see what that's like. Yeah,
we're still trying to think of a name. We're still trying to think of color. I mean, you know, just a lot of brainstorming right now. Yep. But people are ready for this thing. I mean, people have already reached out and be like, I want to be a part of this, you know. So I think that just shows, you know, that, you know, we are trying to make an impact in our communities, you know, and I just want a real rugged name that when people hear, they just think.
That's Barry Bowtone.
Like, I want to be part of that.
He really wants his name.
Yeah, it's Barry Bowtone Go.
This is the Barry Bowtone Gourd Clan.
Like,
Goodness.
Well, what else y'all want to talk about?
We can talk about stigma and pride kind of go hand in hand. So another thing that we face, for some reason, we do get a lot of people that don't like sending our people to outside treatment centers. Kind of odd, because the goal is still recovery. People just want to have the, I want to say, the notoriety of it was them that got them in recovery, but that's not what recovery is all about. Recovery is about the individual bettering their life, no matter how they do it, whether it's on their own, through support, anything like that. And so I do see, for some reason, a lot of like egos kind of getting crushed, where they're like, well, you know, can we like keep them here? We're like, well, I mean, honestly, you know, other states have, you know, light years ahead of like our programs, our sober living, all that stuff. So that's why we support actually people leaving the state, fresh start, more resources, more sober living opportunities, more employment opportunities. And then once they are, you know, more healed and then ready to actually come back and then endure the environment that they left, that's what we want to see them thrive, honestly. And so that's just one thing we see, which is a weird stigma / pride scenario. But I mean, it's all up to the person, honestly. Whatever they want is what we try to do for them. We do, you know, like give suggestions like, hey, are you sure you want to stay? You sure you want to live, you know, at your baby mama's house when you get out of treatment? And then they're like, yeah, I'll be fine. And then they call us 2 days later, be like, can we do something else? And we're like, yeah, absolutely. Like, that's one
one thing that we deal with, but one thing that we do is just never give up on the person. I mean, our phones are always on. We're waiting for phone calls. Hopefully not from jail, but we get those all the time. Phone bills racking up just from those collect calls. But that's something that we see. So we hope to hopefully change the mindset about that of where people go to treatment. Because, like I said, if they're in recovery and it's doing great for them, why does it matter how they got there?
Yeah.
Because it's just something we deal with.
Yeah. When I found out that I could call this number and they would help me, I was like, I got to get out of Oklahoma. I didn't want to be somewhere where I had the choice to walk out. And if I'm in Oklahoma and I walk outside, I'm like, I can walk home from here.
I'm on a mission.
I've done that plenty.
It's only
I'm on
8
a
hours
mission.
Yeah. I mean, that's just my mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I can make it home. I could be in Tulsa, be stranded, and be like, I'll walk home. That's just my mindset. So, I knew that whenever I knew I wanted to go get help. So they were like, do you want to go to California? And I was like, of course, because I had to get away. I had to be somewhere that I could not have the choice to just walk out, and it worked. The recovery community in Orange County where I was at, man, is amazing. Amazing. I'm telling you, like you were saying, light years ahead of Oklahoma. Like, they're trying to bring that same model to Oklahoma. Yep. Because you go to a meeting in California and somebody says Oklahoma, like the whole meeting is from there's like over 100 people there.
Yeah.
Everybody's from Oklahoma. And all the California people are like, what are y'all doing out there?
I just wanted to see the beach.
I'm like, you have no idea how bad drugs are in Oklahoma. Like, they're horrible.
I-40.
Yeah. I mean, it's horrible here. Our communities are flooded, and that is definitely on, there's definitely not a shortage going on of drugs and drug addicts around this place, but so that's why I think it's important that we get more people into recovery, because that's how we, the opposite of addiction is connection. Well, when people come back, they want to connect back with their community. They want to connect back with their culture. This Gourd clan that we're talking about, I mean, that's, to me, like the perfect ideal for a person to get back into that circle. Because that circle, it helps people heal. It brings a lot of joy into people's lives, just being there. People that ain't even native. The things that it's doing for these people, I mean, that to me, that's it should go hand in hand. We should be celebrating every person that goes and gets sober.
Yep. I hope this year we can actually throw on benefit dances or recovery dances, like pretty much anytime somebody comes back, or even just graduations, anything like that for people graduating treatment, all that, just to celebrate. Because it's kind of underwhelming them, overcoming all their life challenges and then coming back on the flight and just going back home. It needs to be
it needs to be celebrated.
It needs to be celebrated because it's a birthday. Honestly, it's a sobriety date.
It's a new life.
Yep. And so hopefully we get to see a lot of that
Yeah,
this year.
there's a tribe in California. I have no idea there's so many tribes in California, but this one tribe, when these people come back from rehab, it's like they have this this honor thing that they do where they celebrate the person. The leader of their tribe, traditional leaders, they all come together for this person, and they let it's like they welcome them back home. That to do something like that. I mean, to let people know that we got your back, or we'll walk with you. That would be amazing. Hopefully, I mean, I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but
Yeah.
just the thought that this is how other tribes are celebrating their people that are recovering. I mean, that's amazing to me. Not to say that it can't happen here, but just I'm gonna put that out into the universe to see if it ever happens.
We'll start out with the Bluetooth speaker and just us four.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
Sure thing. I'm gonna go.
Sure thing. A tour song for some reason.
Yeah.
But we got a lot of good things that are fixing to, we ain't got nothing in the bank, but
Yeah.
we're still here. We're still able to do what we're doing, in a very, you might as well say with no budget at all.
Yeah. Revised.
Yeah.
Creator's been good to
Yeah.
us.
Been paying us.
But it's just part of it. We've been dealing with it. We're still making a huge impact, I feel like, on our community. People are, people that I haven't heard from in years are reaching out to me. And I love that. I love that people can call on us. They have an event. They have just people know that we like to get out there.
Yeah. Cook some hot dogs.
Cook some hot.
Yeah.
I'm burned down on hot
Yeah.
dogs.
Got signature food too, signature song.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like everybody invites us everywhere. We're like, yeah, we got gas money, we'll go out there. Like we have judges that are like saying we're doing amazing things.
Yeah.
We have people, I think in Shawnee, were crying because they saw like the amount of supplies we were giving people, because they were just like, this is like unheard of. And we're all doing this through like community partnerships, like where we sell our pretty much our distribution services, honestly, to make those nonprofits look great or anything. So that way we're both helping them out, but we're also helping our people out. We're helping our government out by not spending a dime, because we're just getting all this free stuff and then trying to just give it out as much as we can. I mean, like if we had a list of everything that we give out, like be pages long, and then we would have like the list of what we pay for, and it's like salaries, bracelets, and that's like that's it.
Broke us.
Yeah, but new bracelets. But here we are giving out millions of dollars worth of stuff. I mean, like Narcan alone is what $40 a box. We give out a little bit over 5,000 just in the last like 6 months. And so that's some math I can't even do, but it's a lot. And then,
A bunch.
Plan Bs. Plan Bs are more than Narcan. Give out thousands of those. And then, you got HIV test kits, sterile syringe programs, sterile pipes, medical lock bags, Deterra bags to get rid of medication, just everything that we give out. Car seats, for some reason we have 3
Plan
car
Cs.
seats. Yeah, Plan C's if Plan A and B don't work. Yeah, we just clothes. Like, I mean, this is all just stuff that we're just trying to like scrounge for, just because we know like people need hygiene kits when they go to treatment, or if they are unhoused and they don't want to go into a homeless shelter or into treatment, we're like, all right, well, we can give you a jacket, some blankets, socks, menstrual products, like anything that we can do to help them out, like as much as they want to be helped, because we can't force people into treatment. Like I said, like we almost tried. One guy, we won't say his name, but we were waiting, got him a hotel room because he was homeless, and then the guy ran, but like we busted into his hotel room. We were gonna drag him, and then but he wasn't there, and so we're like, all right, well, he has our number, so whenever he's ready, I mean, we're here.
Yeah.
Like we won't.
We ain't mad at you.
No.
Yeah, call us.
Nothing but love for you.
Yeah,
we still
no
got your
love
room
lost.
key.
Yeah, no love lost, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, we out here. But
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's just the stuff that we do for people is, I mean, I was using rewards points to get people hotel rooms. I was just like, all right, well, this is what I could afford. Here we go. Just because like I said, we got no budget, so we rely on other stuff.
Creative.
Yeah. Go to the front desk, we'll trade your plan Bs for a hotel room. But yeah, like we just kind of make it happen, honestly. I mean, we get free drinks. There we go. Just all this
Shout out
stuff.
to Chris.
Yeah.
Yep.
Shout out to Crush.
Crush Energy and Chase. Thank you very much.
Yeah, see? Just community effort.
Creative's good to us.
Yeah. Must be
Tor
doing something right.
Slowly
Yeah.
breaking the stigma. TOR is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we got a lot of great things going on. A lot of big events. The Watonga event. We do. We're starting to do a meeting in Watonga area. These informal gatherings on Tuesday nights at 6. I can't remember. I think the address was
It's North-South Street. I remember
yes, North South Street in Watonga
that. Yeah.
on Tuesday nights
Yeah.
at 6.
The flyers on the Facebook page.
Yes.
So if you follow us
Follow our
on
page.
Facebook, yep,
And
that's
if
where
you
you'll find
don't
everything.
follow us,
And
Yeah.
then on Thursdays tonight, we do a Sobriety meeting at 1950 South Shepherd from 6:30 to 8 tonight on Thursdays
In El Reno.
in El Reno at the 1950 address. And, that's a Sobriety meeting. Something I'm a little familiar with, but it's still kind of new to me, but I mean, I'm for any kind of recovery. If it helps a person out, especially my Native community, I want them to have that option, and you might as well say it's it hasn't made me feel any type of way towards, what helped me stay sober this long is working another 12-step program. They say they go hand in hand, but it's just a Native American approach to 12 steps. And it isn't like the other program where you need a sponsor and they help you go through the book. And it's more of like a curriculum. And it's like you do it kind of like a class, like everybody does it as a group. So hopefully, we can get, it becomes bigger. I think everything's gonna keep growing. Like I said, nobody's just came up and be like, y'all suck.
Not
people.
yet.
Not to our
yeah,
faces.
Yeah, not to our faces. They tell other people that we suck. Yeah. Yeah.
But we hear a lot of good things. People love what we're doing. And I think the best part about it is we all enjoy what we do. I couldn't imagine doing this with another group of people. I feel like we all do what we're supposed to be doing. So yeah, what else you guys want to talk about?
no one slanders our name.
Okay.
Don't slander our
Yeah, I mean, we do have. I do know we are always the loudest booth anywhere we go.
sure.
Like, and then people do. There's a couple of reactions anytime they see us. They're like, "Oh my god, these dudes are here. What are they giving out now?" And then, like, because we always have something new. And then, and then other people just like they'll drive from Clinton just to hang out in our office because we're just like having fun. Like, and then we'll have clients just chilling in our office. They're like, "You guys handle your job super well," and we're like, "Oh, it's just all the jokes. Like, we have to have to make them because we like it just keeps us sane." And like I said, it doesn't even feel like work. Like, I mean, there are days where we're working like 7:30 to 8 at night, and then so it's like almost 12-hour, 13-hour days, however long that is.
Yeah.
But like we're having fun the whole time. If people show up, I mean, if not, I mean, we just what would we do yesterday? Slingshot marshmallows in the air with the with the tourniquet
from our kids. And so like we try to have a good time. We try to, have that be contagious to people that attend our events. And then I do think that's why we do get a lot of people that ask us to come out, and then we end up kind of taking over the event inadvertently. Like it's just because they're like, can you do this? Can you do this?
Yeah.
And so we'll like we've had a couple events where like it started out with just, can you guys set up your teepee? We're like, that's the hardest thing for us to do. We've set this thing up
Yeah.
like 12 times, and it's been correctly set up twice. And then it turns from that to like, hey, can you have Domingo start dancing? And then it's like, can you have an MC? And then how about food? And we're like, all right, but we got no money. We'll just ask people. We'll like hit up legislators, hit up other programs. But because they kind of like back our mission up, it's kind of easy to get this stuff. And so I think that's how we're successful, is just like we're just always asking for stuff. Like one day we'll give back to, the people that have helped us out. Yeah, maybe a little shirt.
We'll make some hot dogs.
Hot
for
dogs.
them.
Yeah, that's our little thing. Our little $30 grill. It's got dents in it. Just bring it around everywhere. Just cook hot dogs. Yeah.
Well, what cracks me up is at our office, we're shacked up with all the other programs.
Shacked up.
But they, one of them commented at us and said, man, for a no budget program, y'all have a lot of free stuff.
Yeah. Loads of it.
Loads of it.
Like
Yeah.
our storage area is always full of stuff.
Yeah.
Like our office is full of stuff. The area out front of our office is full of stuff.
Yeah, you can take a nap on coats if you wanted to. That curl
Go
up
missing.
under a buffalo robe. You can do it all.
We have a couch out there people curl up on.
Yeah, I don't know how we get all this stuff, honestly. I just like ask people, and they're like, yeah, how many do you want? I was like, 100,000? They're like, you want 2,000? Sure. Like, and then every day they're like, you got more packages up front. I'm like, oh, sorry. And then just taking over places with what we can get rid of. So we just need a trailer, honestly, for everything we bring out one day.
Kitchen in it.
Yeah, just a grill on the side. That
Sounds like something Brother Eddie could probably do.
Well, is there a flyer out for the Watonga event yet?
There will be. We're trying to nail down the location. They wanted to actually do a whole block party, but they chose February 10th, which is freezing.
Yeah.
So,
It's gonna be snow.
so hopefully it'll be at the Watonga Armory, which is pretty big. I know they'll bring a bounce house
Huge.
out.
It's
They're
huge.
trying to get a band. We're trying to do a competition called Smoke Meats Not Meth. So we'll hopefully get that going. We'll see how that turns out. Then we can start baked goods, not yourself.
Yeah.
You can do it's just we can come up with all these names.
Yeah.
But so far I think we have about 30 programs coming out, and that we haven't even announced it to like tribal programs. Honestly, we've just announced it to recovery organizations, sober living homes, treatment facilities, all that stuff. And so we hope we'll make an impact. We're gonna try to give out thousands of Narcan, thousands of fentanyl test kits. Do some activities, maybe painting. I don't know, whatever we can scrounge up. Yeah, we'll do the Cupid Shuffle. Just do that for 6 hours.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll come out with a flyer. Hopefully, we'll come out with a self-help workbook. Like we got big plans. It's just time.
They were probably
Time
afraid
and
it was going to be bigger than the cheese
money.
festival.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's going to be bigger than Cheese Festival, Fentanyl Fest. But yeah, so I mean, I think they underestimated how many programs we could get
for
there.
sure.
And so now, if we mention free food, which we will hopefully get is free food, then all of Watonga, all of Gary will be out there. Sealing, all these other places, Kingfisher. We hope to see them out there, so that way they can stop by, have fun, free food, free smoked meats, no free meth.
No smoke, man.
Yeah, and so we'll keep everybody updated on our social media about the progress of that, and then figure out what the next event is, because that just kind of fell in our laps. All of our events, honestly, just fall in our laps.
Yeah,
Like, people
for
are like,
sure.
It's not even spring yet.
yeah, we've had requests be like, you want to sponsor a hand game, and we're like, we don't even know how to play.
Yeah,
We like rock, paper, scissors. Like, but we'll see what else we can do.
Yeah,
I
we'll get
mean,
involved.
Yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
get involved.
Yeah, we're always down, and so I think that's what we like doing. We're like, yeah, sure, anything to get out of the office. Like the office is where we work the least. We're
Yeah,
honestly
right?
just
That's
sitting
just
there.
our storage
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm over here making harm reduction man, superhero edits and stuff. 'Cause and then our real office is actually our car. Whenever
yeah.
we're
We're in
driving
the
it.
Toro more
Yeah,
than
the
anything
Toro.
else.
Yeah.
Toro.
Talking about windmills and wind
Yeah,
lights.
all of our ridiculous debates. What's a male witch? Is it a warlock? Is it a wizard? Is it a druid? Like, yeah.
Is it a craft fair inside or is it a craft market outside? We don't know which one is which.
Yeah. No, you found out craft fair has to be outside, right? No,
No,
market.
inside.
Here we go
because
again.
farmers
Here
markets
we
are
go.
outside.
Farmers market
Yeah.
outside.
But then when they moved the craft market into the inside, then it became a craft fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only hand game Barry knows is throwing up the sign.
What up?
He's like 9, 8,
Yeah.
I was like looking too.
counting real fast.
Yeah.
Yes. Well.
No, January 27th, Headman Gordon,
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be head man.
Concho Community Hall.
Yep. Pretty exciting. I feel very honored. I think one time I was asked to be an AD like some years ago, but I didn't even know what I was doing then.
Just pointing, pointing with your lips.
Mop every once in a while,
Yeah.
take some coffee around.
Pick up my cots, pick it up.
But other than that, I didn't know what was going on. Probably didn't even really bother that much. But this time around, feel very honored. It's just one of the things you get to experience when you sober up. The person that asked me, she was like, "Your dad would be very proud of you." And that right there, just by itself, that by itself, just really did kind of make me realize that, I am on the right path, and that I'm very blessed where my life is today, and I can't trade that for anything, so aho.
It's not as important, but we're proud of you too, Barry. And we'll definitely be there to back you up
Yeah,
on the
we'll be there.
27th.
Yeah, it was weird that you asked us to wear mesh shirts, though. But
Yeah. Khakis.
yeah, just be sweating in them. Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out for sure.
We got this.
Tor always does.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if y'all ain't got anything else y'all want to discuss, I guess-
Congratulations on the new baby.
Oh yeah.
oh,
Yeah, I waved too
yeah.
early. I waved too
Suda,
early. Yeah.
Suda.
Suda.
Say her name.
Suda means sky and creek. The middle name is Hotuktanats. It's shooting star. Yep.
Last name's
beautiful.
Reader.
White man.
Oh.
And Reader White man.
That's
It's
beautiful.
not White Man Reader.
What?
No, Reader.
You don't know
White
your
man.
kid's last name?
No, I'm just.
You're gonna get in trouble.
Oh, they're gonna have to edit this out. Yeah.
No, she's a big present for me this Christmas and
Yes,
the year. So
definitely.
yeah. Ooh.
Well, welcome, Suda.
Yep.
Well, I guess with that, we're gonna wrap this thing up. Hopefully, we'll be back if we're
we'll be
allowed.
back.
I hope so.
If we're allowed.
Yeah.
Aho.
Just pushing random buttons.